welcome back to the h.e.r.Life BLOGCAST. I'm your host, Rachel Malik. We have some very special guests. Kimona, Erinne, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I am so excited. This is a Rebels Advocate crossover podcast event, and I just feel so alive. I cannot wait to talk to you guys.
Happy to be here.
Oh, this is so fun. Okay, let's just jump in and have you guys introduce yourselves. You're going to find out quickly this is a Fordham connection, as many guests on the h.e.r.Life BLOGCAST are. But yeah, just give us the rundown. We're all 2020 graduates, so we'll get that out of the way. Hello. But whoever wants to start, just kick us off. Tell us a little bit.
Sure, I'll start. So I'm Kimona. Hello. Yes, a lovely Fordham connection, because even once a ram, always a ram. Didn't they tell us that at some point, right? They said that. Yeah, so I am one of two co-hosts of Rebels Advocate, which is the podcast where we talk a lot, as a podcast does.
We talk shit about shit.
Basically, I love that.
I feel like that's right.
I love
a good description.
That's a great description.
This is why I'm the name guy.
This is why. It is true. Yeah, I'm from northern New Jersey, and I'm currently in grad school getting my master's in ethics and society.
We love that. At Fordham?
At Fordham, yes.
Once a ram, always a ram.
Once a ram, always a ram.
See, I have no intention going back there.
She's one and done.
One and done. Well, four and done. 4 years and done.
True.
Okay, me. I'm Erinne. I am the other co-host of Rebels Advocate, Fordham 2020 grad. I have yet to go back to school, planning on it, get that PhD. Woot.
Ooh, okay.
But I currently work at Columbia in the medical center. So I'm an essential worker. Love that for me. And I work with schizophrenia patients, and I also have a food blog, so I'm going to plug that too. At my food couture. We love allergy-friendly foods because I'm allergic to everything. And yeah, Kimona and I just like to talk and we're just big advocates and big social media advocates, so it just felt like the right thing to do for us.
No, I said before we got on, I feel like I am with my people. I'm so excited because you guys this is just going to be fun because you like to talk about the stuff that you're passionate about, and that is the name of the game here. I have to sidebar about the food blog because that slipped my mind for a second. We did an episode a while ago about phone eats first and taking photos of your food before you eat it. We did this whole deep dive on the social media habits intersecting with dietary stuff. Do you have a solid take on that? What do you think? I mean, obviously you're a fan of phone eats.
Yeah, I think
what are your thoughts?
The funny thing is, it's not so much about the taking the photos of my food. It's more about accessibility.
Right.
Because I'm allergic to gluten and dairy, so there's not a lot of things that I can eat. So it's something that's evolved from just really being passionate about food to just intersecting that with people able to, have fun with food and actually be able to eat, because there's a lot of misconceptions of, having to give up taste and fun foods just because you're allergic to everything, and it's actually far from that. And it's also pretty easy to adapt, and I just kind of like to bring that awareness out there for people with allergies or other dietary restrictions.
Oh my God, I just love this. You're just so aware. I feel like I learned a lot, and that's what brings me to my next point. Listening to you guys every week, I genuinely just feel whatever the topic is, I'm oh my God, why didn't I never think of it this way? And I just feel like my eyes are being opened in cool ways, and because I think as of late, and we're gonna get into why you started the show, and I'm sure it plays into what I'm about to say, but we're in a culture now where heavier discussions are becoming more normal, which is a great thing. I think we're all getting comfortable with being less comfortable with the topics we're talking about. So I just think you guys are a perfect example of that, and where it's I could either pick the podcast that's put it on in the background, you don't really have to think, you're laughing along, and while I am laughing along to you guys, it's okay, then I can think about it for the rest of the day, and pass little tidbits along. So I just like the premise. So with that, let's get into it. I have to know, like, where did the name come from? Who came up with the name? For me, in my mind, it's like, somebody thinks of this name and you're like, okay, we just have to do a show. Like, once you think of that, I feel like that's, in my mind, that's how it played out. Is that right? Am I right?
Kind of.
Sort of. I think this idea was really cemented earlier in pandemic life, where Erinne made the trip up to where I am in Jersey, and we just like spent some time together, just like in a park, just talking for a few hours. And I distinctly remember Erinne turning to me and going, I think we should start a podcast. Just because the way that we talk to each other is basically just what our podcast is. Like, that's just how our conversations end up sounding.
Our podcast is honestly just like literally just us recording our friendship, which is really cool. But that's, I've always wanted to do a podcast, if ever. And I just like really didn't know the right time, topic. Our little intern, my partner Sam, is all about that podcast life. So I was like, I have the access, I have the ways of getting started, but like, what is it? And I was like, oh my God, this has to be Kimona. Like the night before I went and saw her, I was like, wait, it's brewing. And then we agree. Then obviously didn't know Kimona had also always been thinking about doing a podcast. So we were super on board right away. We were like, no, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this now. So as all my great ideas come to me as I'm falling asleep,
of course,
I just like wrote like a really long like text message and was like, devil's advocate, but not devil's advocate, rebel's advocate.
It's so good.
And then she makes all of our awesome graphics. So she sent all these awesome like of that megaphone that we use intertwined with like devil components, and it just felt so right and like perfect for who we are as people. Like, we don't stand for that devil's advocate comment, and we're rebels.
Yes, I love it. And like hearing you guys talk about it is so cool, because like I said, I've been thinking about it and I'm like, this had to have been a cool story. I'm just, yay. And I was going to ask about the graphics too, because they're excellent. And I just feel like your whole, like, you have become such a brand in such a short time. Like, I just feel like you're so branded, and the hype was so real. Like, when you guys were just getting going in the Facebook page and the Instagram and everything, I was like, I cannot wait for the release of the first, like, I was so into it. And I just think, I don't know, I'm happy to be here. Like, here we are, we're over the finish line. Well, not the finish line, the starting line. Like, you guys are a couple episodes in. What, this is number 6 or 7 this week? Like,
6 is what came out. It would have been, it's 7 weeks. We had a little audio issue thanks to me.
It happens, listen. But I think that's also the beauty of like doing your own thing. Like, you make your own rules, you make your own schedule, and that's a great thing. Okay, so what else I had like another thing I needed to ask. Okay, go through like your little intro for me, because you have a whole thing like breaking down the shit show, like run me through it. How did you come up with that? And just kind of talk me through the mission statement, I guess, of the weekly show.
So we had a little call. We had a really long ass call, and we were like, we need to make our thoughts, because Kimona and I have this point in our relationship where we kind of just like think the same thing and we don't really have to like say anything about it.
Yes.
So we were like, how do we articulate like what is in our head, and we're just mutually like, yes, this is the thing. In real words. So it took a lot of workshopping.
Just like staring at each other. I remember I was just sitting and we were just like, okay, let's throw some words out there, because we both knew that we wanted to like get together and talk about the things that we are really passionate about, the really important conversations that we are having internally and with each other, but make that, public and invite other people in. But oh my goodness, it was a productive meeting ultimately, but I just remembered just like, solid 30 minutes just staring at each other like.
It was just like we were literally doing what you do when you workshop something. Like, we were just like spitting sentences out, and we're like, that sounds terrible. What are we saying? And like saying the same thing over and over, and so redundant. And then I think it was actually Sam who I was like, what do you think of when you like think of the current social climate? Like, what does that make you think of? And he goes, I don't know, shit show. And I was like, shit show.
It was Sam. I remember that. And we had actually originally had it say the political climate, but then Erinne came back and was like, maybe we should change that to social climate. And I think that's a really, really good point, because it's more than just the typical politics kind of situation, because like there's a lot of politics podcasts out there, but I personally, at least, there's so much more to these important conversations than just what goes on in the political sphere.
Well, also you have those things in mind, like when you're starting a podcast, like you have to figure out what category you fit into, and like what kind of things are we going to talk about. And we knew that like we were not going to just talk about the election and why we hate Trump for years. We knew that was going to happen, but the more I sat with it, I was like, that's just not what we mean. So yeah, a lot of workshopping.
But I love that. It shows like the grit that went into it, and like this was a thoughtful process, and I think that shows just from listening. So thanks for putting that work in. It makes my job as a listener better. So that's incredible. Okay, I want to circle back to the whole devil's advocate thing that we've like bounced around, but we break it down totally? Like, why is it problematic? I think this is something that just came to me like throughout the last few months, right? Where I heard like, okay, maybe this isn't a thing. Like, I think very Gabelli bro playing devil's advocate in a classroom setting, like, and that happens in every class I've ever been in ever, and I'm not in Gabelli, but like, you know what I'm saying, like that is the picture that you get. So let's break it down. Why is it so bad?
I think why it was top of mind for me and why it came up, that's like how the title formed, is because I kept having in my head the same thing I'd been saying all of the beginning of the pandemic. And my parents aren't going to listen to this, so let's out them. It was my parents. My parents are the type of people who say that. I challenge them a lot, and they were just constantly like infighting with me about my opinions in whatever context that is. We're just, well, I'm just playing the devil's advocate, and I'm like, you know, when someone says that to you in an argument, you just want to tell them to shut up, because that's not what you're doing. The devil doesn't need an advocate.
Yeah.
He's the devil.
We don't like that. So, and that's where the name came, because I was like, I love that sentence. I love that thought. And I know I'm not the only person who's like actively thought that when someone says that to you. And like, obviously that was way too long to be a title of a podcast. So, so that's where it changed. But yeah, it's super problematic, because it dismisses the struggles and the work that people do, as just saying like, it's the way people are who are just like, oh, I'm not racist. I know a Black person. I have a friend that's a Black person, like, or anything that indicates that someone wants to almost exempt themselves from trouble by putting out there that they like, oh, no, I know what I'm talking about. I'm not being that person.
Right.
But they are.
Yeah, I've definitely found that in my experience, when people say, well, let me play devil's advocate, it's usually because they are quietly a fan of the devil's work. So this idea of like, what if we flip that on its head and we advocate for the things and people that actually, like, the people should be playing the advocate for?
Right. Like, give a platform to those who need it, not for those who have it by default because of the flaws. Yeah, totally. Yes. I love it. I think it's such a strong concept, and I'm glad that I'm glad that now like our listeners can kind of get tuned into that, because I just think it's a really cool thing. Oh, I'm so into this, you guys. Okay. So let's pivot. Like, when you were workshopping and thinking everything, who is your intended audience? Is it for people our age? Is it for advocates who already identify as advocates? Like, who are you talking to? Did you think about that? And does that affect how you structure the show on a weekly basis?
I think we know, and we address kind of frequently, that the people who listen to our podcast are most likely already on some like moderate to liberal, mostly because in the same way that we are very set in our beliefs, being so liberal, that people that are very conservative are not going to go out of their way to learn. Especially if you come into something not knowing, like, are we going to be kind? Are we going to just spend the whole time telling you you're a bad person for voting for Trump? Like, I think we do a very active job of making sure that we're never just bashing any type of person, and we're actually addressing the problem that creates a type of person like that, because I would never want someone to feel like they can't learn from what we're saying for a fear that we're going to attack them the whole time. Age-wise, it's literally for anybody. I know people that are, like, I have people listening that are older than my parents, so like 60s. And then I think you have to be in that space, like probably high school to college. I can't imagine anyone younger than college kids really listening to it, just because there's a certain exposure to the real world that you get by being in college. But yeah.
If you have anything to add, go ahead. But this is cool. I'm soaking it in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely, I wouldn't say it's the audience that we are really like targeting per se is not so much the person who is like first stepping into maybe more liberalism, but kind of more so people who probably would identify more like liberal. Whoa, I almost just combined liberal and moderate. What a time. A liberalite. But people who are like interested in expanding their view on certain projects. I don't know. Words are hard. That's also a thing that we love to say on our podcast. Words are hard.
Because words are hard.
They are. But just expanding anyone's view and having the conversations that aren't always the easiest to have, but are important. So anyone who's willing to take part in those conversations, really.
Yes, I love that. To keep it broad, because I think that's what people, and it makes you feel more welcomed as a listener too. It's like, this isn't just for someone who's been an advocate and knows exactly what to say, because that's another thing that I think a lot of people have been learning. Nobody knows exactly the right ways to handle it, and working through it is one of the most productive things you can do. So thank you for being a resource to me there. I think the educational base is clear, and thank you. It's also just cool to be speaking to people my age about these things. It's just, I like that we have entered this place. Like, here we are, recent grads, and these are the conversations that we're having. It's cool. I'm happy to be a part of it. Let's talk podcasting now just for a second. What has surprised you about the process, I guess? Because you guys you're fresh, you're in it. Is there anything that was like, oh my God, I wasn't expecting this, whether it's about distribution or listenership or the production of the show itself or the planning? Anything stick out as like, oh, this is different than I thought it would be?
I think for me, the only thing has been like accepting all this positivity from people. Like, before we even launched the podcast, we had 150 followers, like people commenting and posting about it and DMing us of how excited they were to hear it. And then it's only been more positive since. And we get really beautiful comments, and like, also it's nice too that like I have friends and like people that find me and are like, oh, I love that Kimona does this, or I love this about Kimona. Can you tell her? And Kimona gets that for me. And it's just very rewarding and reaffirming that we're like, because the goal of this podcast wasn't for listeners. It's, hey, we already do this. We've always wanted to do this. So let's do it. And it's just such a positive outlet for me. And it's something that it's really important. And just like in my own personal life, I love an excuse to talk to Kimona all day, every day. Not that I wasn't already doing that, but still.
It's like scheduled friendship time. I love it.
If you think I don't do that with other friends, you're wrong. My friend, like, people have slots.
Oh, it's very important these
Google
days.
Calendar, I love.
Oh yeah. It's the type A. Yeah. I forgot what I was saying.
No, you're good.
I mean, I
Go,
definitely thought that podcasting would be, I think I expected it to be a lot harder for me.
True.
I really didn't think, because we record virtually only for right now because pandemic and all of that fun stuff. I didn't think it was going to be that easy to figure it out, but we ran into maybe one problem before
And that's
launch,
because Sam left us.
and that, yeah, and like we figured it out. I really thought it was going to be a lot more difficult on the technology end,
Mhm.
but then also I didn't, like, I was anxious the first recording. I mean, completely honest. I was so anxious. I was like low-key shaking, but I was like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm speaking. And it was, I think I got into it a lot quicker than I thought I would.
Mhm.
And it just, especially when you're like just talking to a friend, like
Right.
Erinne and I are friends, it's really, it's easier than I would have expected though.
Right. No, and that's good to hear. And again, I think that's all reflected in the show itself. Like in the products that you are creating, it definitely reads like, or listens like it's two friends just, again, talking about stuff you already read. Nothing is forced about it. And I think that's the mark of a good show, right? Where it's not like you're never pulling for content or anything. And that's just cool. Something for me that I think stopped me for a long time from starting to podcast or anything, or like the YouTube or anything, I think I was like, ugh, people are always like, and this might be just me projecting. If you don't feel this way, it's fine. But I just think so much is like, oh, what are you going to do in quarantine? Like, they're going to make a podcast. Like, oh, good for them. Another one with the podcast. And I got that feeling so much, and that stopped me from doing anything for the longest time because I was like, I don't want to be lumped in with the like, oh, they'll make a podcast. Oh, they'll do a YouTube. Like, da-da-da. And I think I got a similar response, I guess, in that people are just really want to see you succeed and want to see you do something that means a lot to you. And when you can showcase that, other people become very receptive of it, regardless of whether it's their niche thing or not. So I'm just happy that you guys are doing it. I think we should be encouraging each other to shine, and you guys are. So keep on going. I'm so into this.
Thanks.
Like, how many times am I going to say the same thing? But like, truly, I'm happy you guys are here talking to me too. Let me see what else. Okay, we talked a lot about your friendship because that's, again, a big root of the show. It's like education, friendship, you get Rebels Advocate. So was there a shift ever in your dynamic between the two of you where it got, I don't want to say heavier, but where the conversations, the topics of conversation kind of became more significant? Was there a notable shift maybe in what was happening outside contextually, or was it always kind of something where you recognized in each other a deeper connection where you could have those more meaningful conversations? Nothing like a light question to just throw into the room. I'm sorry.
That's something to think on. Also, I'm always the first one to respond. So
All right, I'll break the pattern. No, but I think that's really interesting because I don't think I've ever really thought about it this way. But in one of our recent episodes, I said that friends are like spices.
you're right.
I did.
I'm ready to see what spice you call me.
And okay, well, in my brain, Erinne is my activism spice. And like,
I wanted like allspice or
okay,
like
no, you don't get to
cinnamon.
be an actual spice. You are obsessed with cinnamon, and
I love cinnamon so much.
I know. We can call activism spice cinnamon. You can be the cinnamon. But I just feel like the connection that Erinne and I have always had did come a lot from our shared beliefs and shared passion for activism and speaking up on the things that we are passionate about.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say too. Of just like our friendship has always largely revolved around, because individually we are both so loud and proud of who we are and loud and proud of like our beliefs and what we're going to stand out for in all spaces. I mean, we were both presidents of really large organizations in college. Like, we always knew that we were like-minded and a good support system as well for certain things that we were going through that maybe not everyone in our life could comprehend or, you know, could only empathize with. So I think a large core of our friendship has been these deeper conversations, and that's kind of what made it such an easy transition, because I was like, you know what, Kimona's the person that's going to be able to see this podcast to the fruition of like what I want to see from it. She's going to commit to it with me. I'm not going to have to worry about like, did you do your part? Like, we're both built the same way in that way of like work ethic and passion projects. So it just seemed like a very natural flow, and I wouldn't have done it with anyone else.
Yay.
Oh, Erinne.
The
Like,
love we share.
We say this to each other all the time, like every week when there's a new episode. I know I'm always like, yay, I am so happy that I'm on this journey with you. And I think that just says a lot to the way everything that you just said, Erinne, like fully, it's so true. I just have memories of when we were both dealing with like presidential bullshit, of being in charge of a club of other college students, and we would, around our very busy schedules, figure out a time to just like go and grab a meal together and just like vent about it. And I think because our lives are, we have different experiences, and they complement each other in such a way that we're able to really sit down and have like this podcast come to fruition.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. I love your story. And also, like, what a beautiful thing to get to look back on. I think, like, years from now, decades from now, to be able to have this thing, a link that you can revisit and be like, this is me fresh out of college. I had all the passion in the world, and I was doing it to inspire other people. I just think it's going to be a really fun thing to point to for you guys.
Yeah.
And to just look back and, like, reflect on your friendship. It's a beautiful thing. I just think, yay, it should be celebrated. I love it. I love it so much. Okay, I also want to talk to you guys about social media. You guys seem to be big proponents of using social media, to promote the show, which, like, yes, you should be, but also advocacy, activism. Where do you think those two worlds collide? I think a lot of people talk about slacktivism and just like posting your Instagram story that you care about a certain cause and then closing it, like you're done for the day, you did your good deed. Talk to me about the pros and cons. How has your relationship to social media changed? I open the floor to you.
Yeah, we're both big Instagram users.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Instagram is my niche. She made me get a Twitter, and I'm like,
Twitter is an amazing place.
So bad at it, but
I'm bad at Twitter too. Twitter's a thing where I just want to be better, and I'm just not. Like, I feel like I'm the fly on the wall where I'm like trying to learn.
Twitter is a place that I like political figures posts, and Kimona is the only person who pays attention to my page. Like, is it even called a page? I don't know. So Instagram has, I think, something like, right before the podcast that Kimona and I like mentioned, and like also feels very fitting for what our podcast is that once everyone's like faux activism kind of started rising in June, with George Floyd's death, I made a comment, and I've said it to a lot of people, like, I didn't lose any followers around that time because I didn't do anything differently.
Mm-hmm.
I was just posting new content, but this was like what people already knew of me and what to expect on my page. So that was kind of like validating for me, like, okay, I'm staying true to the work that matters to me. Like, nothing that I'm posting is surprising anyone. Everyone's staying or has already left by now, which is cool. And yeah, I just think, I mean, I have mixed feelings of the use of social media, because I do think it's something that everyone should incorporate into their, like, if you use social media, you should be doing some level of advocacy work there, even if it's infrequent. Like, I'm not saying, like, if you don't use Instagram, like, don't download it just to do that if that's not your thing. But if you have a page and you're scrolling, and you post pictures of you in bikinis, and you best be posting some other stuff too. Also, just like, show us you have some substance, please. But yeah, I think it just, like what you were saying, of people thinking that they can do their good deed of the day by, okay, well, I posted a black square and now I did it, and now everyone knows I'm not racist, so we're good now. And who does that help? No one.
Right.
So the action items I usually request of people is that you're posting things that make sense to you, and that you actually believe in, because then you should provide it with follow-up education, either a link, a website, a donation, and just like providing some information and context of, okay, read this caption, read this graphic, or this graphic is incorrect, follow this page. Some kind of action item, keeping it in your highlights. I think it's a very easy way to do good by it.
Yeah, definitely agree. I think it's a very interesting and tedious line to walk sometimes, because to an extent, all social media and online activism is going to be slightly performative, because when you are doing something that is outward facing, it is in a tiny way a performance. But if it's only performative, that's when it becomes an issue. So I'm thinking the people who didn't go beyond the black square, that's a problem. You can't just post a black square and be like, I like, oh, what was it that everyone was saying? I'm not black, but I see you, and like, I hear you, I stand with you, and then like, that's it. It's like, no, like, you'll never understand my struggle, but you need to damn well try. You need to educate yourself. I need to see that you are constantly doing the work. And I was just having this conversation with someone that it's one thing to post your black square and the, you know, sometimes post things on Instagram or whatever social media that you're a fan of. But it's a whole other thing to be implementing these changes into your life. And that's what I look for, especially in the people that I'm around. So even if it's something as little as like, I have friends in my life who I've called out because I noticed that they are still friends with someone who I know is actively, I don't want to say actively racist. I've been categorizing people in an interesting way where like, they're not like Grand Wizard of the KKK.
They're perpetuating it.
Like, they're not, you know, walking around in their little white hat, but they also refuse to sign on to an anti-racism letter. That's racist. If I come to you with something that's anti-racist and you say that you're not a fan of it, you're pro-racism. It's a wild concept. I still don't know how people don't get that. But it's going beyond just that. I think the internet is a really great starting point, and it's also really useful for grassroots organizing and getting into contact with people from all over the world and learning and sharing information. But you have to make sure that you're carrying it over into your daily life for it to actually be meaningful.
Also, to flag, I was totally the person that you had that conversation with. So let's be real.
See, it's a lot. This is what happens.
I was like, wait a second. That was me.
Sounds familiar. No, but I think you made some excellent points. And I think being in the time that we are in, many of us being home again and not being in the bubble, I think being at Fordham even, and Fordham most certainly has its flaws in terms of handling this kind of stuff. But for me, it was so much, I don't want to say better as it's like better or worse, but I was met with so many more resources at Fordham than I have at home and that I did before I went to college. Like here, I just feel like there's a certain mentality of my hometown and it is hard to shake. And I know, Erinne, you've talked about that on your show, like your hometown seems similar to mine, and that there are certain political signs you expect in your neighbor's yards. You know what I'm saying? And I just think at Fordham, at least, there were people to surround myself with who were trying to become better. And then when you're all of a sudden taken back to the place where you didn't know, you know what I mean? It's just an interesting time to be becoming more aware. So then the internet, my point, the internet became a good place for me to connect with people who were trying to do the same work that I was doing. And so it was reassuring in a lot of ways. And interesting to watch Instagram for me become a place of aspiration and like whimsy to constantly being confronted with the most uncomfortable, but enjoying that process because, you know what I mean? It's what needed to happen. I just think, I don't know, everything shifted, obviously. Times are unprecedented, like a lot has changed, but I don't know. Monitoring my own relationship to Instagram in particular has been an interesting thing, being home again.
Yeah, the content has shifted.
Totally. And
it's also flagged like, oh, I don't want to follow these people anymore.
Totally.
I did a nice, beautiful purge. I mean,
purge.
I had a mini meltdown of telling people to unfollow me. It worked.
Sometimes that's necessary.
I just like lost it after the election. I was like, get out of here. Literally, just get out. And people did. And I was like, oh, I miss you.
See you never. Oh, those are fun. Okay, I love it. Let's move on now to some of our classic h.e.r. segments. Every week we go through what we call h.e.r.Reflections. So we go through our acronym and just kind of talk about our week's positivity. Let's just give it a spin. So H is for happy, something you're happy about in this moment. E, we just changed. It used to be excited, but now it's energized. What is energizing you in this moment? And R is a recent realization you might have had. So let's start with H. What are we happy about today? Does anyone have a good one?
Well, today I'm very happy. It's a very superficial, materialistic happy.
That's allowed.
But I bought myself a Cookie Monster onesie.
I love that for you.
And I have been wanting a new onesie for a long time. It's beautiful and it's furry, it's very comfortable, and I cannot wait. My room gets very cold, so I'm very excited to wear it.
I realized I didn't make like a reaction for anyone watching this on YouTube, and they're probably like, what's wrong with her? Why was she like laughing? And I was like, well, I already knew this.
I did text Erinne.
I already knew. And you told me while I was freezing my butt off outside, so I was like, I want to be in that onesie. It was hard. It was hard to hear.
That's a great one. I love that.
What am I happy about? I'm happy that I have the day off for Thanksgiving. Because being an essential worker, you never know. But I do have off for the holiday, and my mom convinced my baby brother to come home. He's not a baby, he's 20, but baby.
Baby brother.
And baby. And I haven't seen him since graduation, so
Yay.
I'm excited to see him, even if he's not excited to see me.
He is on the inside. He totally is.
If not, I get to see my cat, so like we're fine.
That's beautiful.
The cat's way more important.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm glad you get to go home, and it'll just be a nice little recharge. Hopefully, glad you have the day off. And thank you.
I've already been COVID tested, everyone. It's okay.
Good.
And I'm not seeing extended family. I don't support that. Don't see your family. Bye.
Love you, man. We love. Okay, let's move on. Energized. What's energizing you guys? I know. I feel like I'm just here's a light question.
I'm getting my yoga teacher certification.
Yay!
So that's been really energizing me, just like being surrounded by other mental health professionals, specifically in the training I'm doing, and also being surrounded by other yoga teachers who focus on trauma. So it's nice to be in a space of people who share that interest, especially because like I love learning about it and talking about it. So it's a fun space to be in.
You've got so much going on. I feel like every question I ask you, like, there's another thing. You wear another hat that I had no idea. Like, you are.
I am notorious of doing way too many things. This is literally like a down period. I'm like, wow, I'm so chill.
Light. What's this free time? What's this like?
Pretty much. Type A.
I think what's energizing me right now, and I think Erinne, I already texted you about this too.
I'll pretend I don't know. I'll make a reaction.
Just pretend you don't know. I have just started getting grades back for my grad classes, even though we're almost into the end of the semester. I think I have like 3 more classes of like each class left. And I'm only just getting my first grades back, but they've been good. I got some A's, and that's been, and like also like actual feedback on like areas I can improve, and that's really nice to see, because then, you know, going into final papers, and one of them's 25 pages, but that's giving me the energy that like I'm on the right track.
We love.
I was hoping you were gonna say that for your happy, so I'm glad it came up.
We had to get through Cookie Monster, and now we managed it. Like, it's a prioritizing kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's do the last one now. A recent realization. What have we been realizing?
Okay, I got a good one.
Okay, she's ready.
So in my yoga teacher training on Sunday, we were having some hard discussions, and we were talking about implicit biases, and I realized that, like, from bringing on the conversation that Kimona and I have been having, and I had some biphobic incidences occur recently, and it's been just very, very top of mind. And I realized I have a bit of an implicit bias towards straight people. I'm not always comfortable. I'm not always comfortable. Just because, and if like an implicit bias is something that you may not know that you have, you're not actively acting it. I've realized that sometimes when I'm around straight folks, I'm more likely to assume that they don't support me than they do, if that makes sense. And that was a hard realization and a hard truth, but I'm happy to share that I'm learning, because identifying is how you get better.
No, totally. Thank you for sharing that.
Wow, I was not thinking anything like deep.
That's the beauty of the realization, though. Like, you could really go anything. Like, I was like, I realized I can't sing as well as I thought. Like, my answer is very week to week.
The only reason I had that is because it happened the other day.
That's valid. That's valid. My my realization was going to be about TikTok.
That is you. Tell it.
Okay. Rachel, are you on TikTok?
Listen, I'm very new. I'm happy to say I published my first TikTok the other day because it was spiraling, and so I was just like, no, and like I got 6 likes, and I'm happy with that. I didn't blow up like somebody here, but I feel like maybe my day is coming. I don't know. But I have to be on it for work a lot. Like, I work in social media, so I'm constantly monitoring, like, skin talk in particular. Like, I'm very big into skinfluencers. Those are
Ooh, that's fun.
So that's what I like. Every single day I go through like 100 pages to make sure they're like posting or not, or blah blah blah. So it's like a lot. I know all about sunscreen, but nothing really else. But I think general trends I can be with you on.
Okay, so I don't know if you've heard of Ratatouille the Musical.
The musical?
I feel like I saw a thing, but I don't.
This is about to be the best day of my life.
Well, the TikTok community has come together around Ratatouille, you know, the Pixar film.
I accept.
And, yeah, they've created a musical, like different people all over the place putting in their own things. There's people who have done choreography, costumes, set design, like lyrics and songs. It's so beautiful. But I've realized that Ratatouille the musical can never be a Broadway show because it is the show of the people, and therefore it cannot be co-opted by big theater.
I like that. Big, capital B, capital T, big theater.
I've learned much more in that than mine.
This is why you need a TikTok, Erinne. She would get one.
Well, it's funny because I saw like one person that was like Ratatouille the Musical and like sang a song, and I was like, oh, that's cool for them. Like, they must be into this. But now knowing the bigger picture, I was like, okay, it's thin. I was like, why did this blow up? Like, it's good for her, but like,
there's a playbill. Someone designed a playbill, and it's beautiful. It looks like a real like Broadway musical. But then I was like, but it can't be on Broadway.
We cannot let this happen.
It's the people's show.
People.
I'd fit in well with the TikTok community.
And this is why I keep telling you to get a TikTok.
I get it. I think everyone can find their little thing within TikTok. It's a special place. I did not think that it was going to stand the test of time, but I think we are in it.
Me either.
Like, yeah.
TikTok folks feel like Tumblr folks in a new generation, and therefore I know I belong.
I feel seen, but like uncomfortably, like you just like read my soul.
You're seeing way too much. It's like when you go through the airport and they're like looking through you and they're like, where's all that metal? And I'm like, sorry, I have so many piercings. Whoops.
That's so funny. I like that. I think you're right. You got to get on TikTok just to know what the hype is about. Contribute to the musical.
I
love it.
I'm too bossy. I'd take it over. I'd be like, hold up. I'll do my own rendition. Get a rat from the street.
Oh my god, I love it. You guys are good. See, you guys, show up with these reflections. I love this. Okay, now I'm just gonna do kind of sort of rapid fire-ish, but also talk as long as you want. These are just a couple general topics we've covered in separate episodes or different little mini series on the show. And so I just want to get your take. First of all, we did a whole Killjoy content series. So we talked about anything we're watching, reading, listening to that has made us uncomfortable, but has ultimately been very productive, changed our mindset, da da da. I'm sure you guys have a lot of examples. I think your show is a phenomenal example of that. Rebels Advocate itself counts. But is there anything else, any recent movie, book, anything that is speaking to you when I said that?
So
Yes.
many.
Yeah. I mean, I have one that's actually an Instagram account. It's
Okay.
Oh my goodness, what is the @ is woke scientist.
Okay.
And her account is so many things. But basically she is like very into social justice, leftist abolitionist, and I consider myself a baby prison abolitionist, working on getting into this stuff and figuring it out more. By no means an expert in any way. And her account has been really eye-opening for me in a lot of ways, and some of it is uncomfortable. Like there are times when I read her like infographic educational posts, and I'm like, what? like you're challenging my worldview actively.
Yeah.
But it's also super important, and it's helping me in my brain. I'm reframing my politic, and it's helped me in that. And it's really like sometimes those things are really uncomfy, but it's also super educational.
Yeah. That's exactly the point. That's a great pick.
Okay, so she has helped develop one for me too then, because now I'm gonna think about my Instagram account that makes me feel those feelings. Queer Brown Vegan.
Hi.
He is great, and I'm a big environmentalist, specifically intersectional environmentalism and how like that impacts justice and social justice and all the things. And he definitely says some things sometimes that I'm like, that's a little radical. And you gotta sit with it and like learn from it. And I like to be confronted with people like that on my page who I feel are more radical than I am, because it makes me think about what I believe in. And maybe change some of my opinions, but maybe like just reframe, okay, I get that idea and this is what I think. So that's definitely a similar feeling, but that's a little bit more about the intersection of social justice and the environment. But
I love that. And I think it's nice to have a whole handle, like a whole Instagram page dedicated to that, because that's something where it just becomes part of your everyday, right? Like you're scrolling and you're not sitting down with a book or like taking 2 hours to watch a documentary. Like this just comes up in your day to day. And so it becomes an extension of your online life, which is an extension of your life. It just becomes more. And so therefore it's more top of the mind, you know? So I think that's a really great thing. And again, something we've seen a lot in the last few months is people changing their online patterns, behaviors, habits to make that more common for themselves. I certainly have done that, and those are 2 accounts that I'm excited to follow now. So great picks. Let's move on. Another thing we love to do is the celebrity dinner party game. Sometimes we do a drawn out version where everyone gets 10 individual celebrities that they would invite to a hypothetical dinner party. But we're just going to do the mini version where you each just pick one. Like, who is your number one go-to celebrity? It could be public figure, celebrity, whatever you want it to be. Who comes to mind and why? My favorite game.
Okay, I have one just because, again, top of mind. Like, I don't know if you would ask me this question in a different context, I probably wouldn't drop this name.
Okay.
But when I saw your questions and it was like, who do I want on the podcast? I was like, Kimberly Crenshaw. Kimberly Crenshaw. We're talking about her in our next episode, and I am obsessed with her. She is the founder of the term intersectionality, and I just adore her and everything she stands for. I like her Twitter.
On Twitter.
but I would just love for her to, like, I don't even want to talk. I just want her to talk at me.
Yeah. Yeah, just soak it all in. And honestly, whoever else is at the dinner party, like hypothetically, we all have all different celebrities, public figures that are there. And I think no matter what the vibe of the room is, she is a great addition. Like she's going to have interesting things to say and everyone's going to shut up to listen to what she says. And I think that is the mark of a wonderful guest.
Well, yeah, perfect. Then I love my option.
I love your pick. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it for a second.
That's beautiful. Mine is kind of on the same vein, but it would have to be Angela Davis.
Yes.
Heavy hitters.
Because I remember
also that is 100% on the same vein.
Yeah. I just
like the same blood cells.
I love her work so much, and just like what she stands for, being someone who has been in like activism and organizing for the long haul. I just think it would be such an interesting conversation, and to hear her like tips and tricks and like these are things that have worked for organizing, and this is where I've seen real change. I would love that.
Yes. Oh, I love you guys. Good, strong picks. I never know which way this is gonna go, because it could be like something very like, oh, da da da, like I like, and I don't want to even like name a random celebrity because I don't want them to feel bad. Not that they're going, but you know what I'm saying, like a random actor or something who doesn't have this. Like you guys had weighty choices. That's phenomenal. I like where your head's at. It's also like a factor of the discussion. I like that that's your vibe. Like those are your celebrity dinner party guests. This is great. Okay, this might be my favorite segment ever, and some weeks I end up scrapping it because it's like, this is not adding to the conversation at all. But we love to do Swoon of the Week, which is very simply like whoever, it's again like a public figure, kind of whoever you're crushing on this week. Jake from State Farm for us on the show has been like a recurring theme. We are obsessed with Jake from State Farm. We're always swooning for him. And
I hope you mean the new Jake from State Farm.
Yes, of course. The rebrand of Jake from State Farm is like our number one swoon. We've talked about the Cuomo brothers. We've talked about Zac Efron as Ted Bundy. Like all these random things where it's like, why am I swooning over this person? Do you have any standout swoons lately that you want to gush about for a second? If you don't, that's fine. If you want to be like, Rachel, this is insane, that's also fine. But I just like to throw it out there. A swoon of the week.
You're not insane. It's just a hard-ass question. I swoon on the reg.
I mean, my constant swoon of the week is always Zendaya. Like, I've got her post notifications on because she's always posting something beautiful. And I'm just like, wow, the elegance, the range.
Truthfully.
I mean,
think it's going to be so cool to look back again, like the way we're looking back on the show. We're going to look back on witnessing the rise of Zendaya and like tell our kids about it one day, of being like, oh, when she was just starting out, like she is just going to so stand the test of time and become already a household name. I think she's going to only excel even further. I can't wait to watch what she does. That's a good pick. Swoon.
I don't know. I wish I should have thought of the question, because I feel like I could definitely come up with somebody, and I definitely had.
When this comes out, just be like, I thought of my swoon, this is my swoon, and you'll.
Well, I mean, I'll say my forever swoon, because like the reason I knew I was gay, Demi Lovato.
Oh, that's a good one.
Like the love of my actual life. Like when she relapsed, my ex and I obviously were exes and not speaking. Literally contacted me and is like, "Are you okay?"
Oh my God.
I'm like, "No, I am not." Mm-hmm. That's how much I loved Demi Lovato.
Did you watch the People's Choice Awards she hosted? And I don't think she's ever hosted before. I thought she did a great job.
I didn't watch because not my thing, but I did watch all of her outfits.
That's the thing. She really is, again, like talk about the talent level. I think for a lot of people, or at least for me, like when she sang the national anthem at the Super Bowl, I was like, oh my God, like that's not a normal level of talent that we expect from our celebrities even. You know what I'm saying? She really is like next tier. I can't even describe it. And she's been through it this year. Like this year has been, she's gone with the engagement, the broken off engagement, and it was funny to see her at the PCS like talking about that, because she had mentioned how she was, it was just interesting. That's a good pick. You guys.
That's my girl.
Your forever swoons are always welcome on this show. This is so fun. I feel like combine that with our celebrity dinner party, like we have a great lineup here.
Well, I ruined the perfect like trend of Black women, so I felt bad because I was like, I could definitely swoon over some other amazing
There are so many swoons, and that is the beauty. Like every week there's a new swoon. You know, there's no limit.
True.
I'm glad we got to talk about Demi though. Like she's good.
I can't help it. Love my life.
So good. Guys, thank you so much. We're just ending on a high. This was so much fun. I'm really glad that you guys were down to come on and kind of talk me through your process. I'm so excited to keep listening and to watch you grow, and just I'm happy to be along for the ride in this small way.
Thank you for having us.
Oh my God, of course.
This is our first podcast guest appearance as like a collective. I've been on podcasts before, but not as like Rebels advocate. So it's very cool.
This is a very fun collab. I feel like the entire Fordham class of 2020 is gonna be like, what's going on? Like, this is a big deal. Like,
they better.
Oh, you guys are so fun. Okay, I'm just gonna run through all my little sign off things and then I'll record. Okay. If you guys like what you're hearing, make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, or follow us on Spotify. You can also be sure to rate and review. That would be super helpful for us. You can find us on Instagram at h.e.r.blog.life. We always have audiograms and little IGTVs. You'll get faces to the names of Rebels Advocate here. For blog posts, just go to h.e.r.bloglife.online. And for behind the scenes videos of recordings like this one, just search my channel, Rachel Malik, on YouTube. You'll find those. That's all I got. Thank you guys so much for being here, and thank everyone for listening. I'm Rachel Malik. This has been the